Hello everyone, and thanks for watching. I'm making this video because I had gone on to YouTube many times looking for Checkride information in the sense of a commercial pilot, and I found many mock check rides, but never anything that answered the questions that I had and is what to expect. I think the mock check rides were good to see, but I don't think they're reality. I think they were overdone in the sense of really being by the book and all that stuff. So I just completed my commercial check ride 2 days ago and successful. And so I wanted to give or make a video that would help others that might be coming up on a commercial check ride and what to expect. I'm going to try to do it in less than 5 minutes. So I'm already into it for a minute now. So the first thing I would say is to be prepared. You see it or hear it all the time, but it really helped when I came in and I had all of my documents ready along with the money on top and everything was laid out on a clipboard, and I handed in clipboard and he went through it rather quickly. Also my logbook I had tabbed out for my long cross country, my day cross country, the 100 nautical mile, and the night 100 nautical mile. I also tabbed my 10 night landings at a towered airport. I tabbed out my complex time, so that he could go through and walk down the FAR AIM regulations and match it up with the logbook. And so that made it very quickly, or made it quick as well. And also I had my logbooks, or for the aircraft, tabbed out. So just one flip to the 100 hour, and in my case the annual had just been done. So and also for the checks for the altimeter and the transponder and those things were tabbed out in there as well. So that made really the oral portion begin quicker, and went straight into the oral. And he went right off the ACS, and it's basically a scenario. A couple nights prior to the check ride, he emailed me a cross-country scenario, and then you plan for it. And so we just really used that as a scenario for the entire oral. And starting from walking up to the aircraft and where do you begin? If an FAA examiner comes and he asks you, hey, I just saw you land this plane, I need to see all your documents, what would you have to show them? And then it kind of went from there. And we talked about that stuff. Another thing would be important to know is the actual aircraft that you're using. And what I mean by knowing it, I mean in the sense of knowing all the buttons that are inside the aircraft, even know what they do, and then what type of engine is in it, what type, how does it operated, cables and pulleys or hydraulics or stuff like that. He wanted to know a lot about what we were flying in, and then obviously your weather. And your pretty much, if you can explain your brief to him or to the examiner, him or her, and sound knowledgeable about it, you're really going to get through it. There was no stump me questions at all, and there was no he didn't try to trick me in any way. It was very, very pleasant, if you will, exam or oral exam. It was basic, really, it was basic private pilot questions with some commercial questions in there in the sense of privilege and those type of, and that stuff. It was really simple in that sense. I would say study in a scenario. Think about every step that you would take from the beginning of a flight plan to the very end of the flight plan, and everything you would need to know in the middle, in the sense of airports, landing distances, and takeoff weight, and how much runway would you need to take off with, and all that stuff. If you do that, the ACS is not going to stump you. And I'm going over 6 minutes here. I'll try to make it brief because we're almost done. After that oral questioning, it was a 10-minute break, and then we started the flight. I will say this: there was one thing that I didn't do, is I only answered the question that he asked. I did not elaborate any further than to answer the question, and that helped because I didn't bring up something to remind him of anything, to ask further about. I just answered the question and then shut my mouth, and that helped, and he liked that. Getting into the flight, he walked around with me for my pre-flight. He didn't ask me much questions about it. He just watched me do it, and then got in the plane and did a thorough passenger brief. And that's very important because you're a commercial pilot. You're going to be taking passengers, and so I did a thorough passenger brief. Started up and taxied away, just as you would any other time. My examiner was a passenger in the plane. He didn't try to stump me or make me do anything crazy. He didn't try to distract me. He was just a passenger, and I told him what we were going to do, and then in the sense of takeoff and what normal takeoff and those kind of things, we did a brief, pre-takeoff brief, and got in the air. Once we got in the air, he told me to go according to our flight plan, and we started that. And then in the middle of it, maybe 5 minutes into the flight, he diverted me using VOR. So I diverted. Then he told me to look up a couple places on my GPS, go direct there. So we went there, and then we picked an airport nearby, and we went direct there. And that's when we started the landings, the emergency landing. We simulated a smoking cockpit, and then descended down to the airport, and then went right into a soft field landing, and then immediately into a short field takeoff. And then from there we went and did chandelles, we did lazy eights, and steep turns. We did slow flight, and then a power on stall. And I will say this: before we did any of those maneuvers, we did do clearing turns. So make sure you emphasize clearing turns. And before every maneuver, I made sure that I said we need to do a clearing turn, and he agreed, but told me, "Hey, we did it already. Let's continue." And then we went back. And on the way back, at a time that you won't expect, he chopped the throttle, and then I had to perform the 180 power off landing. And it was at a time that I wasn't expecting it, so be prepared for that. I mean, when you're practicing the pattern, but just try not to make it the same place all the time. Once I landed, taxied back, parked the aircraft, and we did the debrief in the plane, and that was it. Total time was 3.5 hours from start to finish. And so I hope this helps somebody, helps you prepare, maybe ease the stress, or ease your nerves, calm your nerves, and maybe help you in what to expect for your check ride. My check ride was here in South Carolina. I won't name the name of the examiner, but very thorough, very quick, to the point. There was no wasting time. It was in and out, and we got it done. And I'm a commercial pilot. So I hope this helps. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. And I hope everyone has a good day.